Hello everyone, my name is Papa Walt and I want to welcome you to How You Can Understand God. This is part 2 of the Mosaic Covenant. If you didn't get a chance to watch part 1, I would recommend that you watch part 1 first, because I tell you a lot about a man named Moses, what everything he went through to get where we're going to be in this teaching as the one that delivers the children of Israel out of Egypt and makes a covenant with God to do so. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. What is the Mosaic Covenant? That was a covenant that God made with the children of Israel through Moses up on Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is where Moses went up when God said, come up here, I want to talk to you, and that's where he made the covenant at, okay? So what happened then was, like I said, on that mountain, that's where the 10 Commandments were given to Moses. Also, some Levitical laws are part of the covenant. And then also the blueprint for a tabernacle that God wanted Moses to build. It had specific instructions. I mean, length and width and height and details that were just so specific that God wanted it that way, and that's for his purpose, okay? So that's part of the covenant God is making with the children of Israel, again, through Moses. Now, what was the Israelites' part? Their part was simply obey God's voice and obey the covenant. It's simple. These are the laws, these are the commandments, this is the blueprint. Just follow the instructions to the T, and I'm there for you. I'll protect you, give you peace, provide for you. And another thing too is God wanted to make this these slaves that were slaves in Egypt. He not only wanted to liberate them, he wanted to make them into a holy nation, a royal priesthood, which was a special treasure unto God. So that is the Mosaic Covenant. Okay, how did we get there? Well, as I told you, Moses received the call from a burning bush. And that call was to go to Pharaoh and to say, let my people go. Now, Moses, having been 80 years old at the call, was slow of speech. I'm sure his body was physically kind of messed up, So anyway, he got a little help from his brother Aaron. Aaron could probably talk a little bit better. So Aaron was his sidekick to go to Pharaoh. Well, Moses approached Pharaoh and he did as God told him to do. He said, let my people go. And I'm paraphrasing here. And I'm sure Pharaoh said, well, who are you to tell me what to do? I'm the head of Egypt. I'm the Pharaoh. I can do anything I want to do. Who sent you to me? And Moses told him, he says, I am who I am has sent me to you. My God has sent me to you. He is saying to you, let my people go. Not Moses' people, let my people go. And Pharaoh, being the one who worshiped all kinds of gods that I told you, it was a country full of different gods they worshiped. Bible says God hardened Pharaoh's heart, and immediately he said no. So Moses was given the ability to bring down plagues upon the Egyptian people. In fact, there were 10 plagues that he brought down on the Egyptian people. And I'm going to list them on the side there on the video so that you can see what they were. Every one of these plagues that Moses brought down related to a god that they worship. For instance, flies, lice. One of the main ones and one of the first ones he did was the Nile River. He turned it into blood. Do you understand the Nile River was their main source of water? And it made them powerful because of that river where it was. God turned it into blood. What do you think happened? You think the fish died? How about the vegetation? Everything that we know scientifically that water does for plant life, for the things on the bottom of the mud to feed the fish and all the things that live in that Nile, do you not think everything just absolutely died? How long was that river red? I don't know. I don't know. I never saw anything with it. How about flies? Okay, the other day here in the studio, someone had left one of my windows open because the weather is definitely cooling here in Georgia. And there was a few flies in here. And I was getting ready to video, and man, I'd get the camera going. Next thing I know, man, a fly would fly in front of the lens or land on me or do something. It was so funny. I'm sitting here swatting flies, trying to get these things killed so I could record a video. I mean, it was a mess. So hopefully I got rid of the flies. If not, I got my trusty fly swatter over here, and I'll swat him in front of you today. Lice. Oh, how many of us have had children and send them to school and get that note or that phone call? One of the children had lice in their hair, and they've been playing together, and oh my gosh, you've got to get the special medicated shampoo and get rid of the lice. I saw my own daughter hand picking lice out of her girl's hair. Oh, man. But can you imagine the lice that God sent? It is said that God took the dust. Oh my gosh, can you imagine that? Can you imagine the flies? So those were some of the plagues that God brought down on them. And you can read, like I said, read the book of Exodus so that you can follow this teaching, which I'm talking. Read about those plagues. I mean, it's simple. Let my people go. Pharaoh, I'm not doing it. You can't make me do it, and I'm not doing it. Okay, these are the consequences for not doing it. And a plague would come down. I mean, they turned the earth into darkness. They said they had a hailstorm worse than it had ever had. I mean, I think about all this. I mean, this is coming at them 10 different times. How long does it take someone to learn a lesson? How long does it take to turn somebody around? And all God was doing was showing the Egyptian people and Pharaoh that I am the one true God. The God that revealed himself to Moses. Moses probably worshiped other gods, but when he had revelation of the one true God, that's what this God was doing, was trying to show the Egyptians and Pharaoh there's only one true God. I want to mention the last plague here because we're going to lead up to something else. The last plague that was brought upon the Egyptians was that the firstborn of every animal and the firstborn of every household in Egypt would die. Now, Papa Walt, how does that affect the Israelites? I'm going to tell you how that affected them. God spared them. Now, this is going to be a quick summary of what it is because it's going to go down the road here with something else. When that plague was coming, when that death angel was coming, he told the Israelites, sacrifice a lamb, cook it a certain way so that it has kind of a bitter taste to it. They call it the sacrificial lamb. Go into your home that night with that sacrificial lamb, eat that supper. The blood of that lamb you are to paint on your doorpost, on the jambs, on the outside, the blood of that sacrificial lamb. That way, when the death angel works his way through Egypt, he will pass over you. That is why Jesus in the book of Exodus revealed is the Passover lamb. It is a foreshadow of what is to come in the New Testament. We're going to stop right there with it. So what happened? Sure enough, they did what God told them to do. That evening, When the sun went down, the death angel came through. There's an old saying, how you pay people is how you will be paid back. How you pay others is how you're going to be paid. Do you remember the decree that Pharaoh put on the Egyptians because he was frightened they were going to take over his reign? Do you remember the decree that all of the Hebrew male children were to be thrown into the Nile? Now, the firstborn of every Egyptian was gone. How you pay others is how you will be paid. We need to watch how we treat people, what we say to people, what we do to people, because it will come back on us sooner or later. After that plague came through, Pharaoh said, okay, enough's enough. I can't take the... Get your people and go. Not only did he release them, he gave them wealth. Get out of here. Take this. Take that. Just take it. Take it. Take it. Take it. Take it. Take it. And get out. Get out. I've had enough of you. I've had enough. So they left Egypt. It's estimated that there were close to 2 million people. Now that's counting men, women, and children. I think they sometimes say they always use the male count first. It says something like 600,000, but that they always say it does not include the women and the children. So whoever figured it up, they figure it was about 2 million people that left with Moses out of Egypt, where God was guiding them to go. So anyway, they left. However, Pharaoh, being Pharaoh, and not quite broken all the way, put the armies together, go after them and get them. So they loaded up and they took off after the Israelites. Now during this time, the Israelites, they were being guided by a pillar of fire and a pillar of smoke. That was the presence of God. And they followed that. When they knew that the Egyptians were coming after them, God had told them to go a certain way in the wilderness, and he was guiding them that way. They came up, guess what? To what? The Red Sea. Needless to say, they didn't have any boats ready, and there definitely wasn't no cruise lines to load up and let's get to the other side. They had their back to a wall. He had Moses part the Red Sea. God did the work. Moses called it into being. And that Red Sea parted. And then you would think it'd be muddy and all this stuff. No, it was dry ground. 2 million people walked across that Red Sea on dry ground. 2 million people to the other side. And when the Egyptians got there, the waters were still parted, because you understand they were behind them. They went after them. Can you imagine looking up here and a wall of water? How deep was it? I don't know. A wall of water, how deep was it? I don't know. Real quick story. I did another job for the Corps of Engineers in Cape Canaveral, Florida. The gates that open and let the boats in and close, and they raise the water levels, pick the boat up or set it down. One of the gates was not working, so we had to change the hinge pin. So our job was one side was the Indian River, and the other side was the bay that the Atlantic Ocean flowed into. We had to block up a wall with railroad ties, all kinds of tarps, and then we pumped that water out so that we could get to the gate hinge pin and change that hinge pin out. When I went down in that hole was 45 feet deep. And every day that we went down in that hole, you have to understand, on one side, the Indian River was blocked. And on the other side, part of the Atlantic Ocean was blocked. Do you not think that I thought about, if this dam breaks in one end, I am gone? Can you imagine what the Israelites felt when they walked through that? I bet they just didn't go straight through it. I bet, oh man, let's get moving. I bet nobody was dragging behind. But the Egyptians followed through. And when they got where they needed to be, when they were all on that dry ground, God let it loose. And it all came back down on them. Drowned every one of them. Horses, men, everything that went after them was gone. That's the parting of the Red Sea. Where do we go from here? Part 3. Because it's going to be a part 3. So anyway, that's the story of how they came out of Egypt. They didn't come out poor. They came out very wealthy. They came to a dead end. God did a miracle. They got through the Red Sea. And now we're going to continue on to go to Mount Sinai to worship God. And that is where Moses will receive the 10 Commandments and Levitical laws and how to build the tabernacle. So part 3 is on its way. See you on the next video.